obviously, Killing Joke holds a very special and unique place in the Batman canon. Obviously one of the most acclaimed stories and a controversial one as well. What was your approach in adapting the material to animation, and how much, I guess, breathing room did you find to change things around a little bit?
We had to breathe some. I mean, if we would have done a straight adaptation, it would have been very short.
Yes, absolutely. It's only like a 48 page, I think.
Yeah. So there were some things, but remaining in the spirit of the way it was originally written, and creating some scenes that hopefully come off as seamlessly.
And for both of you as directors, I think this has been something that people have kind of wanted to see in animation for a long time. It feels like once DC started doing these, direct-to-home release features, especially directly adapting stories, like Killing Joke was kind of something that people were always interested in.
Yeah.
Well, what did you find that made it kind of an interesting story, both plot line-wise and visually, in terms of bringing it to this medium?
Well, I mean, anytime we do an adaptation of a really well-loved comic, we always have to be very respectful of the source material, especially with this one. Again, like you said, it is somewhat controversial, and we made the decision early on to not back away from the controversial elements of the story. We figured if we're going to do it, we're going to be crucified if we don't stick to the spirit of the comic. So we decided not to tone anything down. There were things about the comic that frankly have bothered me for decades, but I decided going in, it's like I'm not going to try to put my stamp on the movie. I'm not going to try to change it and make it better or whatever. It's just we're going to do a straight adaptation of the comic, and it's still. I mean, again, I've been ambivalent about the comic for a long time. But it's a great comic, and it's definitely disturbing on a lot of levels. But we didn't back away from any of that. And then once we decided to expand it to feature length, we took that opportunity to spend a whole lot of the story before we even get to the Killing Joke aspect of it, basically focusing on Barbara and Batman in her previous life as Batgirl before the events of the Killing Joke happened. So that actually helped us in terms of giving her more screen time, because in the comic she basically shows up and gets shot, and then we see her and she's a crippled victim in a bed, and then that's the last you see of her. So I think that was, to me, like one of my favorite things about the movie is the whole first half of the movie, before we even get to the Killing Joke. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Brian and I were just talking a little bit about it on the ride in. A lot of times, like when as a comic book fan, you may read a comic, but because you're a comic book fan and you've read all these comics, you're kind of up to speed already as far as like what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in making a movie, I think it's great what Bruce and Brian did as far as like sort of setting up with Barbara, just in case people that come in kind of cold and they don't know really too much about superheroes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You get what she's about. You set her up,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think the movie, the way that they constructed it, it sort of gives you everything you need, to know going into it,
Mm-hmm.
and then coming out of it too. So I think it definitely sort of helps it as far as just being, the entity of being a movie.
Yeah, and one of the things that got a lot of press about it, and possibly overblown, is the fact that it's an R-rated adaptation, which obviously on its face is surprising. Obviously there's many reasons why something might receive that rating. Obviously you could have changed it to make it PG-13 if you wanted to. So I would imagine that the R rating was an important, whatever it was an important thing to have in there, to be faithful.
We made it really clear with the home video people when we agreed to tackle this thing, was that we told them straight up at the very beginning, this could end up with an R rating. Are you guys okay with that? And they said, yeah, it makes us a little nervous, but if it has to be an R rating, then yes. And then, so when we did the movie from the script onward, we didn't try to go for the R rating. It's not like here we go, we're gonna have brains and boobs everywhere. But at the same time, we didn't try to tone it down. So we just said, we're just gonna do it the way we think it should be done, and we'll send it to the MPAA and see what happens.